conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. And then we'll have the approved date and signed by the chairman and the county clerk. Now, the general fund budget shows total revenues of $85,405,189. A majority of that will be coming from taxes. $68,210,000 of that's coming from taxes. License and permits, $732,000. Fines, fees, and forfeitures, $4,091,000. Charges for services, $8,705,150. Intergovernmental, $173,000. Interest, $1,602,200. Contributions, $35,000. Other, $662,800. And use of fund balance, $1,194,039. The expenditures are going to be for the commission office, $1,871,800. Elections department, $679,580. General administration, $2,054,700. Legal services, $315,000. Information technology, $761,800. Tax commissioner's office, $1,500,300. Tax assessor's office, $1,696,500. Risk management, $2,173,000, for a total of general government of $11,052,680. Judicial Superior Court will be $737,960. Clerk of Court, $1,740,450. District Attorney, $1,356,829. State Court, $1,129,100. Solicitor, $1,209,800. Magistrate Court, $748,700. Probate Court, $686,700. Juvenile Court, $1,072,800. Public Defender, $1,240,730, for a total expenditure in the judicial area of $9,923,069. Public Safety, the Sheriff's Office, $23,395,400. Correctional Institute, $4,408,600. Fire Department, $14,494,230. EMS contract, $2,083,900. Coroner's Office, $146,700. 800 megahertz telecommunication, $216,000. Animal Services, $1,465,900. Emergency Management, $322,150, for a total in public safety of $46,532,880. Public Works, $6,269,500. Solid Waste Collection, $4,825,000, for a total in Public Works of $11,094,500. Health and Welfare, $328,680. Parks and Recreation, the Recreation Department, $2,424,280. Parks Department, $1,504,900. Forestry Program, $17,000. And the West Georgia Regional Library, $250,000, for a total in Parks and Recreation of $4,196,180. Housing and Development, the Ag Center, $305,900. Planning and Zoning, $1,510,800. Economic Development, $165,000, for a total of $1,981,700. Debt Service, capital lease $295,500 for total appropriations of $85,405,189. Then we have our special revenue funds. We've got the Sheriff's Narcotic Fund at $252,500 in revenue and expenses. Magistrate Technology Fund, $30,000 in revenue and expenses. Public Safety Fund, $500,000 in revenue and expenses. Emergency Telephone Fund, $2,878,450 in revenue and expenses. Hotel Motel Fund, $95,000 in revenue and expenses. Streetlight Special Tax District, $48,350 in revenue and expenses. The Date Fund, $118,936 in revenue and expenses. The Grant Fund, $2,062,899 in revenue and expenses. The ADR Fund, $100,000 in revenue and expenses. The Law Library, $50,000 in revenue and expenses. Clerks Co-op, $75,000 in revenue and expenses. Juvenile Court, $1,800 in revenue and expenses. Jailhouse Store, $25,000 in revenue and expenses. The Correctional Institute Commissary Account, $30,000 in revenue and expenses. And the Correctional Institute Inmate Education, $40,000 in revenue and expenses. In the debt service, we have proposed expenditures of $7,840,830, and that will be a transfer in from the 21 SPLOST fund of $7,840,830. The Solid Waste Fund, we have estimated revenues of $5,598,900 and expenditures of $5,598,900. In the Capital Projects Fund, we have appropriations of $8,190,281, and that will come from a change in fund balance of $8,190,281. That's our budgets.
This will not be on a consent agenda. I don't think Alicia will read it all again on Tuesday night. Any questions at this point?
This time.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we're going to skip back now to the work session item. And number 2 is update on recreation facility, lighting design, and electrical projects. So I'll call Thad Ferguson, Recreation Director.
Good afternoon. As you know, we're working on updating lights and electrical at the rec department. With me today, I have Mr. Jason from Southern A&E. Him and his coworker, Mr. Frank Campo, have done their assessment of the recreation department. We have sat down, gone over the assessment. You guys should have a copy of that, but I'm just going to give Jason a few minutes just to kind of hit the high notes of that assessment to answer any questions you guys may have from their standpoint, and then kind of give you a plan of action moving forward on our side. So, turn it over to Mr. Jason.
Thank you for giving me the time today. If you guys read through this report, that we can skip. They're kind of similar in their. We have 5 different services on this location. We've broken them up into the fields that are associated with that service. We have a couple of the services that were put in roughly around the same time. Around 1998 was the softball, baseball complex on the top side, softball, baseball in the middle. And then in 2008, roughly, is when the rest of the fields were added. the football, the pond, some of those others. So obviously the 98 systems are some that they're having the most issues with as far as the lighting, the age of the equipment. But to say that the 2008 equipment is still, it's coming close to the end of its life. That would be the football field, the track, the little multi-purpose field, and the pond field that they use for soccer in those areas. So our recommendation is we're looking at changing to an LED sports lighting system. Those come with lower power wattages. So when we replace the system, we can go with smaller wire and cost less as we go out. So it's hard to replace the system, the infrastructure, and not replace the lighting. Is it doable? Yes, but it will cost more to replace because we have to replace those circuits to the size they are now, which is larger. And everything there is direct burial. I don't know if there's no conduit, so I can't just pull the wire out and replace it. Most of them has been damaged once, twice, 3 times as they've had to repair sprinkler systems over time. So our recommendation is if you can't do the entire thing, or our recommendation is if you touch a field, is to replace the lighting and the infrastructure at that time, because we can get the best value for our money, because we're putting in the systems that's designed for that LED lighting system. We're putting the infrastructure in. So what we would be basically redoing is all the electrical equipment and the feeders out to the pole. We'll be putting those in a conduit and directionally boring to all the poles, so that if something were to happen in the future, we can hopefully get those wires out and replace them. Let's see. Our recommendations towards the middle of the page, the middle of the packet, is what you would want to look at. Most of the services are in the same condition, like I said. So our recommendation is to replace both the infrastructure and the lighting at the same time. We will be reusing the existing concrete poles. They're in fairly good condition. Some of them have some cracking. Some of them have some holes that are missing on them. We've contacted the Stress Creek, which is the manufacturer. They're out of Alabama. They offer a service to come out and inspect the poles to make sure that they are usable and that they continue to do their function. We've included that in our proposal as a price line item for them to come out and inspect those poles. We've also included some money in there for fixing some of those issues on those poles, whether it be cracking, sealing the cracks, filling the holes, and things of that nature, to try to restore those poles to their former glory, as we can say. But our intent is to reuse the existing poles and put up new lighting fixtures. The lighting levels are listed in here, would be comparable to any of the high schools that are around here. So your current lighting levels are probably a little bit lower than that, because it just wasn't designed for that back in 1998. And over time, the lamps degrade, so you'll see a much brighter facility when we go with the LED. The other thing that I know that's really pushing this is lighting glare. I don't know if you guys have talked with them about that at all. Was that part of your? So with neighbors right along the property line, there's been some pushback on the amount of light that's coming on, light spill onto their property. And with the new LED lighting fixtures, we can really reduce those glares at the property line, and we can test that, and we can show them that it will be less light, less glare at that property line than they currently have. So I think that's a big thing. But like I said, I think it's wise to replace both the infrastructure and the lighting. And if you have to do it in pieces or parts, choose a service. We have 5 services, and you can choose which one of those you guys would like to do or plan to do. At this time, the manufacturer doesn't have too much of a escalated price because of any tariffs. So we don't know at the time that it bids if there may be some additional tariffs that, if there are, they'll be passed through, and you'll see them exactly what they are. But at this time, we're not aware from the manufacturers that we've talked to on the sports lighting systems of any tariffs that they would be passing through at this time. Just make sure we make that. Know of anything else? Do you guys have any questions about the system that's out there? The system that sports lighting in a whole, what's being proposed at all? Have you guys?
So on the poles themselves, I've heard that poles only last so long and then you have to replace the pole. I know you know way more about it than me. That's just the layman's term of what I've been told. You've
Correct.
touched on that a little bit. So let's say a pole has 2 to 3 years left, 5 years, I don't know what they may come out and recommend, and we've done the infrastructure and we've done the lighting on that pole. How then more expensive is it once you've done that to then have to change that pole out down the road? I mean, is it as a major overhaul, or is it no, it's pretty simple?
So I would have the company come out and evaluate the poles very first thing. And if you want to pay for them to evaluate all of the poles at this time, you can do that. There's only a couple poles that I think that they would have. There's some cracks that are go around that are not your problem. It's your cracks that are kind of vertical. It's where water can seep in and get the poles to expand. There were a few of those, but nothing that we wouldn't expect on a 25-year-old pole. The concrete poles, they tend to be a 40 to 50 year lifespan on those. That's why a lot of people went with concrete poles back in that day. They don't use them as often now because of the installation cost is a lot higher on those poles because they're heavier. They're in one piece. So they're a lot harder when you have an 80, 90, 100-foot mounting heights. But I would say the first thing we would do is to get them to come out and evaluate those poles and make sure that we're not going to spend money on a pole that we need to replace.
And do you feel like, I'm not asking you to vouch for the credibility, but do you feel like you have the expertise if they come out and say, oh, you need to replace 10 of these poles? Are you going to know if that truly needs to be happening? Do you have enough knowledge? Because at the end of the day, you are supposed to be looking out for our checkbooks. I'm just wondering how familiar you are with what they're going to say.
I mean, we've dealt with concrete poles. I've been doing it for 24 years. We have the guys that we have contacted with the sports lighting contractors. They've been doing it for 30 years with concrete and steel poles. So I believe with their knowledge and our knowledge, we can assess what they are telling us on the manufacturer side, because we've seen these poles, we've seen them in action. There are a couple of them that we're asked to. That's why we contacted them. We want them to look at the poles. We've already sent the pictures of all the poles to them that we took, and they did not have any glaring observations when they were looking at it. So the only field that they want to pay a little bit more attention to, I think, is the black field. The black field, I believe it's the one that's down towards the pond. And those poles, I believe, hit bedrock, so they're not as deep as the other poles. We can see some of the bottom of the pole. And I think that's just for them to evaluate. I don't think there was anything to say that's wrong with those poles. They just want to evaluate them on site to evaluate. So
what's the cost estimation for the evaluation of the poles?
I think that was, we had $35,000 for a line item number for inspection and remediation of those poles.
So mediation of what you believe, if they didn't say replace any, what you think they're going to agree with you on fixing a crack, that would be the...
Correct. What their recommendations were when we send them the pictures of the cracks of some of the poles. And really that's just going to be caulking or sealing those holes or repairing some of the concrete that's been knocked off from when there was a receptacle installed on it and things of that nature. Anything that we install new-wise will be banded, will be a stainless steel band around the pole. We're not going to physically attach to that pole because we don't want it to be damaged like that.
Okay, infrastructure cost you're estimating for the wiring and the conduit?
On page 12 of the report, we have it broken down to each service for the infrastructure. Service number 1, which is the upper fields, is that yellow, red, maroon, was $191,691. Service number 2, which was the middle fields, is $140,090. The service number 3, which I believe was, sorry, I'm looking. Yeah, that's the black field, and the pond field was 107. Line item 4, service number 4 was 87,000 was the football field. Service number 5 was 193,774, which is the track, orange field, and the multipurpose field. Closest.
And that's infrastructure and lighting, or just the
That's
infrastructure?
just infrastructure.
All right, now tell me the lighting.
The lighting, which was, we had an original bid a couple years, was it last year? I believe, for a lighting vendor. We had that in there at 1.2 million for the lighting installation.
And so is it your recommendation that the company that we originally were thinking about going with, the brand of lighting, is that what you're recommending, or is there another brand out there that could be cheaper for the same comparable quality?
My recommendation is a complete system. There's a lot of manufacturers out there that offer a light fixture. They may offer a control system, but there's not a lot of manufacturers that offer a complete system. And what I don't want to see is you, as a board, in 5 years have issues with that company no longer making that fixture or that driver or that control system. And even with a 5 and 10 year warranty from those manufacturers, you have issues with that fixture is no longer made. So they will no longer offer those warranties for that fixture because it's obsolete. I'm just recommending a sports lighting manufacturer that meets the specifications that we have.
Okay, so for instance, when Mr. Ferguson brought us before, and there was no doubt, I think it was the highest quality, but it was basically described to us as an enclosed system, right? It came as maybe one unit was enclosed and you basically just hooked it up, whereas the other maybe was open wiring or open lighting. I'm getting mixed up on my term, but so that was my question. There was a considerable amount of more money to go with the higher end one that was enclosed, and that's what I'm asking you, because I think there was only one company or one type of light fixture that met that criteria. So are you going that route, is what I'm trying to get you to tell me?
We have proposed using that vendor because of the number. They have the best glare, the best controls, the best system package and warranty in the industry. There are other manufacturers that have a system, but it is going to be a parts and piece system. As far as they get a driver from this manufacturer, they get a fixture from this manufacturer, they get a control system that they have made. I'm not married to that system. I'm just saying that that's the one that we've looked at. But our specification is open as far as my biggest thing is I want them to have a warranty that they'll stand behind. I want the glare at the property line to be as low as I can get it. And I want the system operation to be as easy for these guys to use. So that's what our specification is written around. We allow other manufacturers, and we are not opposed to evaluating those. And we've talked about that. We evaluate those when they submit them to us. And we'll go through that process with them and you guys when it comes to that.
Okay, so barring that there's no poles that need to be replaced, we're looking at just a round number of $800,000 for all the infrastructure, the evaluation and everything, and then you're confident with the prior number that was put in place at $1.2 million, correct?
I am at
So you're looking at a $2 million project?
Yeah, we were with because we'll have a general contractor, and then they'll have a little bit of contingency on there. I think our total budget number was around 2.25 million with the general contractor's overhead and profit on there, because there is just more than the electrical contractor usually can handle.
And so basically the information you're giving us today, this is probably $1 million more than we originally were hoping that we would spend.
Correct.
But what you're basically saying is, if we go the cheaper route per se, and we don't deal with the infrastructure, we're going to get into all kinds of stuff. It not matching up to the LED, it already has shortages or cuts or whatever from being aged.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying, without putting words in your mouth, you're kind of stuck. If you're going to go forward, you need to heavily consider doing all of it together, even though we could do it in parts. I'm just trying to Here again, that's why we hired you as the expert to
Yes.
give us as much exaction as you
So-
can, because it's a big difference to spend $1 million versus going the $2 million route.
I understand. So I think if you do anything on the projects, you do them as a service. In any of those services, you can do them alone, stand alone. You could do the upper baseball, you could do the middle baseball, you could do the football field alone on that service. So if the money doesn't work out, you can get a price for all 5 of them. And then what the prices come in, you could choose from which ones you want to do, because they are independent. They'll have a control system for them. Their power is separate. Our intentions is to do this in tandem with the system still up and running, to be as less downtime as we can. But each service can be done as its own project.
Gotcha.
So that it's not my recommendation that you have to do all of them, but it would be nice because they're all on the same campus.
But whichever ones you do it all based off of how.
That's
you
correct.
put it
If you do the upper fields, don't just replace the light fixtures, because they're having issues with the infrastructure.
Right, okay.
It's been hit. If you do the infrastructure, we're going to have to oversize it to accommodate the existing lighting fixtures. So I think that if you do it in a service or in a field type environment. So.
Okay, thank you.
But you did say all the infrastructure would be directional board, conduit.
Yeah, I mean, our intentions is to, I guess, as least destruction as we can. We've tried to price some of the infrastructure installation costs as a directional bore, because they have all kind of utilities that they just don't know exactly where they are. So we'd be directional boring to each pole and trying to go around the field where we can to not affect that field. So if the contractor comes back and they can do some trenching versus directional bore, and they can give a credit back, then it's something we can evaluate.
But everything will be in conduit.
So it looks like it's going to be HDPE, yes. So it would be something they can bore with, yes. So
But your recommendation here today solely is that we need to have the poles evaluated before we do anything, and then we could go from there to decide which fields we would hopefully do everything on, even if we couldn't do all the fields. Is that the pecking order of what you're saying?
I mean, I think if you're doing anything, you need to have the fields evaluated. The poles where they stand now, I don't see them having any kind of posing of an issue. The problem is you're changing what's on the pole. Our weights are similar, but we are affecting that pole. So that's why we're saying we advise coming out and inspecting the poles. I don't see any imminent danger of any of those poles, but I'm just saying that I think you would want to have them evaluated as part of that. And if you wanted to, you could break it down per field. You're going to evaluate these poles if we're going to do this field. If you want to, you can go out and evaluate all the poles and separate the recommendations on fixing those poles to be associated with those fields. But you could have a recommendation of, all right, go and inspect all my poles and give me a price on how much that's going to be. So we could get them to separate it that way.
Gotcha.
All right, these are all concrete poles.
Correct. They're all concrete poles.
Okay, and we're looking at probably another 20 years on those poles.
Yep,
if
that's
they're in
correct.
fair shape.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the new, like I said, the new ones are coming in as a steel pole. They put a concrete base with a steel pole up in the air, and those last 25 to 30 years, just depending on the steel, the location.
Yeah, that's a steel pole.
If we went with the steel one, that's correct. The concretes, we usually get anywhere from 40 to 50 years.
Right.
And we can ask for the recommendation how much longer those poles are on their use.
That's
Yeah.
that's the answer.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the life
Could-
left on these poles?
And can we get, I wouldn't have to say it'd be exact, from the contractor, maybe a per field breakdown? Just like on the HVAC for the sheriff's office, it was substantially higher to do one unit at a time versus do all 3 at once.
I mean, there is going to be, obviously,
I'd like to see that number. It's just
Yeah.
kind of, apples to apples.
there will be a bucket or a crane rental for a lot of these. Obviously, there's going to be a setup charge and additional if they have to come back to do additional fields. Directional bore guys, a lot of these have them on site, and they keep those every day, but we'll definitely get them broken up. If you wanted to, you could get a price for all of it. Sometimes that does get a better price in the end. because you've got more work on the site. So, but we can set up any way you guys want. We can do a price for all 5 locations, then we can do a price for each one. So, at this time, we haven't sent this. Well, obviously, we haven't sent it to any contractors, but we've asked some contractors for their going rates on some of the installations. So, to try to give you a better ballpark of a number. So, because yeah. Any other questions you have?
Great, thank you both.
Thank you.
And now we're going to switch back over to the actual agenda for Tuesday night. Item 1, again, will not be consent. It will be on Tuesday. Item 2 is the jail HVAC units emergency replacement. We agreed to go ahead and put that on consent with, if there's more information concerning the warranties, we'll bring that to you. Okay, number 3 is the fire rescue equipment purchase, and I've got interim fire chief Dave Wade here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we're coming to you about a project that we did last year. We took possession of a refurbished pumper. All our pumpers are Sutphen. This was a 2004 model truck, and we placed that back in Lowell down at Station 12. We're wanting to redo that same project again, but this time it's going to end up at Station 5. The price went up just a little bit from the last time. It's going to run us about $398,000. Or $398,020.46 is the estimated cost, and that's without any of the extended warranties. And I finally got all that back in from the vendors about 1 o'clock this morning. So we'll talk about some of that stuff here in just a second. But the estimated build time on this is about 6 to 8 months, and that's a complete rebuild. That's an in-frame motor rebuild, a remanufactured transmission, and then Williams does everything from the lights to the dash to the seats to the door latches. Everything is completely redone on this truck. We've had really good service out of Engine 12. Some of the warranty stuff that we had to have from Williams on their side has been phenomenal. Their customer service is still phenomenal, as it's been since, I think, '93, since the county's been doing the business with them. We haven't had any major motor issues or transmission issues with that truck, so we've not had to utilize any of that on the standard warranty with that one, because I don't think we did any extendeds on the motors and the trans of that last refurb. The new pumpers, and this has really gotten crazy with new apparatuses. The pumpers that we had just ordered back in '22, and we've still got one of those that is due in September. If we were to order those same exact trucks, we're looking at least $1 million with a 36-month lead time on that. And that's got to do with their backlogs at the plants and then some supply chain issues that they're starting to see. So we got a pretty good savings on the refurbished engines, and this one is a non-DEF truck as well. It's a Caterpillar engine, so we don't have any of the DEF fluid or the DEF emission stuff that we have to worry about, which is where we get a lot of our issues with some of our current trucks. I talked with the finance director about this, and we reviewed everything, and we're looking at the 2021 SPLOST for this. On the extended warranty side, Williams, it comes standard with a 1-year bumper to bumper. I mean, everything that they do is 1 year. We can extend that up to 2 years for $2,500. 3 years would cost us $6,000, and 4 years would cost us $10,000. Yancey will do a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. That's the standard warranty that's included with that. And then they'll do an additional year option for that for an additional $2,000. The transmission has a 2-year limited warranty as part of the package. And then if we want to change that to a 2-year unlimited mileage warranty, that's about $2,500. So if we do those two warranties, just the extended warranties on the motor and the transmission, that would probably move the project to $402,520.46. I believe this is going to be our option for the next little while until maybe we see some prices changing on some of these manufacturers. But I think we're moving in a really good direction with this. This is the same exact truck. It's a sister truck to the 2004 that Engine 12 did.
Can you repeat the Williams extended warranty? It was 2 year for $25,000.
Yeah, 2-year for 25, 3-year would be 6,000, and 4-year would be 10,000.
Like we talked about today, do you think with Williams doing the customer service they have, do you think it's really a need to have their extended warranty other than, I'd go definitely like the transmission and the engine, but Williams always follows through with what they're doing. Is that?
They do. They do really well for us. We had an incident a while back with some cables on one of our platforms that were replaced, and then they were about 6 months out of warranty, and we had an issue with them, and Williams took care of that. 6 months out of the warranty, that shouldn't have been a problem. So they took care of that for us. But after speaking with our fleet director, he doesn't see the need for that just because of our relationship with Williams. They've been phenomenal.
So, Chief, based off the extended warranty information, thank you for gathering all that. If we did the 4-year extended for 2,000 on the motor and then the 2-year unlimited on the transmission at 2,500, do you feel, I know it's our decision, but you feel that would probably be $4,500 well spent considering the full amount that we're looking at on the project? I mean, is that a fair statement?
I believe so. You know, I mean, I think it was stated earlier, electronics with things nowadays is a mess. Even though Caterpillar and Allison are great products, you can still have some issues with them, and that gives us a little bit more of a buffer.
Okay. I feel comfortable with that, and as Commissioner Bailey said, and as you reiterated the first part, which is a lot more expensive, they seem to take care of us anyway, so I would feel comfortable just adding the motor and the transmission if the other members did.
That's where I'm at with it.
I'm good.
Okay, so we're going to put this on I'm asking, we're going to put it on a consent agenda, and right now the dollar amount reads not to exceed $398,020.46. So we are going to, I'm going to ask, do you want to put it on a consent agenda with the new dollar amount being $402,000. Yes, $520.40. It's a lot of fours and twos right there. I was trying to add it up. So the new dollar amount not to exceed $402,520.46. You good with that? They're on a consent agenda. Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you.
Okay, item number 4 is drug court lab technician, and we have Karen Van Blancklum from the drug court director from drug court.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for having me this evening. We have developed our program so much to the extent where we are here requesting for a part-time lab technician to be moved to a full-time lab technician. Drug court services a sole in-house drug lab that runs urine screens on an analyzer. We provide the results within best practices, which is 72 hours upon collection date. That is to prevent any further degrading of the specimen and the accuracy of the results. We provide services for drug court participants, mental health court, and as well as Superior Court, State Court, and mediation. However, we also had the privilege of adding Veterans Treatment Court as of January 2025. They are in full operations. So with that, we are growing rapidly. Drug court is almost at max capacity. Mental health court has exceeded capacity, and Veterans Treatment Court is in full operations. And so we do anticipate their operations to be exceeding capacity by the end of fiscal year 26. So with that, we also have the expenditures for a grant funded, so it's primarily grant funded by the states. And with grant funded by the states, we have projected to have the full-time lab technician position to be $33,260 for the 16-hour hourly rate salary of full-time, in which the grant has approved for 100% reimbursement for the hourly rate and $1,285 of fringe benefits going towards the fringe. With the total of fringe, our lab technician, I've already spoken with her, and she does not want to opt into the medical and the retirement funds, but however, we'll have the county operations going towards the life insurance, the long-term disability, FICA, and workman's comp. That comes to a total of $2,811.02. With the state operating reimbursement going through $1,285 applied to that $2,811, we have a county obligation of $1,526.02. Now, with that being said, we also have revenue that we're able to provide for our operations. The revenue comes from the mental health court and veterans treatment court for their services, so we bill them for their services and they reimburse us. In addition to that, we charge participant fees. The participant fees were projected to be approximately $35,000 this year. With that increase, we've actually, at a current projection rate as of this month, is just over $39,000. So with a $4,000 projected increase from our revenue. And so with this county obligation of $1,526, which will not be grant funded, will actually be covered by those revenues that we're actually going to be receiving. And so, which means there's zero county obligation for this. This revenue goes towards the county operations for the lab itself to be able to operate, and for the growth that it's needed. And so we do anticipate more growth for that, in which we do anticipate the revenue to increase as well.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any questions?
So it sounds like you've got everything figured out on the money. Well, that was a good presentation. My only question is, and it sounds like you've got money to absorb it if it did change, but it sounds like you've got in mind exactly who's coming and what benefits they're going to take. So I guess if that changed midstream halfway through the year and someone else came on and said, I want all the benefits, we would have to figure out that number could change. And it sounds like you could cover that easily as well, but I'm just saying,
Yes, sir.
Only having $2,800 worth of benefits, that's really cheap.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That projected revenue is just the participant fees. We also had the lab revenue from mental health court and veterans treatment court that reimburses us, and so we also charge them 95 cents per test, and so for the labor, that basically covers the cost of that lab technician. So if we did happen to have someone else come on that wanted the medical or the retirement benefits, we would be able to cover that from the lab revenue from mental health court and veterans treatment court. Further, there's also emergency funding that comes through with the state grant, in which I would apply for additional funding at that time for further growth.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Okay, item 5 of Safe Streets for All, our plan resolution. We have Danny Yates with Public Works to present, I guess, the final plan for us.
Yep. Well, the final plan is in, and as you can tell, I had Linda pass out a paper, and that's the first project we want to see this money spent on. I'm sorry. And the pond company, they have all that information right there, and they are doing some pricing to make sure we can spend the money that they apply for. And what I'm here tonight for, and I guess I'll read this resolution, that we're asking you as the board to sign. The resolution will be turned in with the grant packet to show the federal government that Carroll County is on board with this Safe Streets project. Whereas Carroll County experienced 84 roadway fatalities and 219 crashes that resulted in life-altering injuries between 2018 and 2022, and whereas traffic deaths and serious injuries are preventable and often result from roadway designs that are ineffective and accommodating multimodal use, and whereas Safe System approach acknowledges that humans make mistakes and therefore roadways must be designed to minimize the impact of crashes on the human body. Whereas Carroll County as well as the populace have a collective responsibility to contribute to a safe system. Whereas Carroll County received a federal Safe Street and Road for All Action Plan grant in 2023, and whereas Carroll County collaborated with stakeholders, including its cities, major employers, and nonprofit partners to develop a data-driven and community-based safety action plan over 2024 and early 2025. And whereas public input collected during the safety action plan process provides evidence of the citizenry desire for roadway safer improvements, and whereas the county's population is aging based on U.S. Census Bureau data, so specific initiatives for older drivers' safety are needed. Whereas Vision Zero is a holistic strategy aimed at eliminating all traffic fatalities and severe injuries suffered by all road users while increasing safe, healthy, equitable mobility for all. And whereas streets and transportation systems have traditionally been designed primarily to move cars efficiently, and Vision Zero supports a paradigm shift to designing streets and transportation systems to move all people safely, including people of all ages and abilities, pedestrians, bicyclists, public transit users, and motorcyclists, as well as drivers and passengers of motor vehicles. Whereas Vision Zero resolutions have been adopted by many jurisdictions across the United States, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Carroll County joins the Vision Zero movement by committing to a goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries that are a result of roadway crashes in Carroll County by 2040. Carroll County commits to safer streets for all users, including drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and individuals utilizing various models of transportation. Carroll County commits to continue collaboration with neighboring jurisdictions to advance projects identified by the Safety Action Plan. Carroll County commits to monitoring and reporting on progress toward the Vision Zero goal. Carroll County Clerk shall certify the adoption of this resolution effective immediately by the Board of Commissioners.
Good job with that,
Oh, that was
Mr.
a
Yates.
mouthful.
It is, trust us, we do it every month. But, so you have in front of you some potential road widening projects, because I think that was from different conversations we've had over the last year as a Board of Commissioners, but plus the buy-in from the citizens that came to the various meetings, filled out the surveys we had online and other things. So these are the roads that have been chosen to widen, to provide better safety.
Yes, all these roads are on the Safety Actions Plan High Injury Network. These are some of the ones that scored the, I guess you would say, the lowest for safety.
So are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda to go after some grant money to help us do this projects?
Yes, sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Only if Mr. Yates will come back and read that.
No, I don't.
on
I would
Tuesday.
not like to read that again on Tuesday. Thank you.
Item 6 and item 7, we just went over earlier with the Finance Director. Item 8 is Carroll County Library Board appointments. We'll do those on Tuesday. Item 9 is the Carroll County Development Authority. We'll do those on Tuesday. And item 10, the Carroll County Board of Family and Children Services appointment. We could just go ahead and do that one as a consent because Kim Jones has agreed to do it again, and I did not receive any names from y'all. So y'all go put item number 10 on consent.
Yes.
Yep.
So let me just double check, since I've zigzagged around quite a bit, that we are all on the same page for Tuesday night. So going back to the agenda, meeting overview. Okay. Why will it not move now? Okay, so we have no zoning for Tuesday night.
Hallelujah.
Okay. Item number 1, we will vote on. Item number 2 is on consent, which is the HVAC. Item 3, the fire rescue equipment purchase, is on consent. Item 4, drug court lab technician, is on consent. Item 5, Safe Streets for All Safety Plan resolution, is on consent. Item 6, Alicia, do we need to go ahead and do the budget amendment as a consent, or do you want to wait till Tuesday? That was just the amendment.
The budget amendment was presented as notification that we'll publish it, and then there'll be a special call meeting before the next work session on June the 26th to vote on it.
Okay, so no action on this item. Okay.
Correct.
All right, item 7, the budget resolution, we will vote on that Tuesday night. Item 8, we'll vote on Tuesday night. Item 9, we'll vote on Tuesday night, so be prepared with your appointment names, please. Item 10 is on consent. And then we will have an executive session that we'll go into Tuesday night to discuss real estate. Any other questions concerning the agenda for Tuesday night? Okay, great. Meeting is adjourned.